What makes something truly alive? Is movement enough? Is growth enough? Or is life far more complex? How can we distinguish the living from the non-living? Does growth define life? Does growth define life? Inside every living cell, thousands of chemical reactions are happening every second. Could the cell be the fundamental unit of life? How do living organisms sense and respond to their surroundings? And then comes the biggest question. Mission, can life really be defined by a single characteristic? And then comes the biggest question. Can life really be defined by a single characteristic? But life is not just one form. Our planet contains an astonishing diversity of life. But how can we possibly study such enormous diversity?
How do scientists identify, name, and classify organisms? But is classification enough? Or do scientists also need to understand evolutionary relationships?
What exactly makes two organisms members of the same species? How can millions of organisms be organized into a hierarchy? How can scientists across the world give organisms one universal scientific name? How can an entire plant be preserved for scientific study?
What if living plants from different regions could be studied in one place? How are biological specimens preserved for future generations? How can wild animals be observed and studied while maintaining protected environments? How can a scientist identify an unknown organism using a series of choices? And where can scientists find detailed information about organisms? From understanding life itself to exploring biodiversity, classification, taxonomy, and taxonomical aids, every concept is connected to the core ideas you need to understand NCERT biology and prepare for NEET.
Let us take a look at the 20 concepts we will cover in this chapter. We will divide this journey into 3 distinct parts. Get ready to master the complete chapter.
On this pale blue dot, life flourishes in every corner. But what is it that truly defines what makes something living? From the vastness of space, a living world awakens. This is the science of life. Life exists everywhere on our planet, from the vast open oceans to the highest mountain peaks, and even within a single drop of water. Biology divides into many specialized branches, from genetics and microbiology to the vast study of ecosystems. From the tiniest bacteria to the largest blue whale, Every living organism is studied under one fascinating science: biology. Understanding biology is the key to solving global challenges, from medicine and food security to protecting our planet's precious biodiversity. Mastering these fundamental concepts is your gateway to success in the NEET examination.
From the energy that powers a single cell to the vast ecosystems that span our planet, metabolism is just the beginning.
All living things respond to stimuli. Sunflowers track the moving sun. Humans react to intense heat. Animals become alert to sound, ensuring their ultimate survival.
It involves two blocks: anabolism, which uses energy to build complex molecules, and catabolism, which breaks them down to release it.
On this pale blue dot, life flourishes in every corner. But what is it that truly defines what makes something living? Everything alive has a story. Every giant tree begins as a tiny seed. With sunlight and water, it breaks through the soil until it bursts into a beautiful flowering canopy.
The world around us is made of two distinct things: living organisms like trees, puppies, and birds, which grow and breathe, and non-living objects like rocks and phones, which remain completely still.
Rain and wind affect non-living things, but they remain internally unchanged. Inside, there are no cells, only silent, static, crystalline structures.
Life. From a giant whale to a tiny cell, life exists in countless forms. Biology helps us understand this incredible world.
What is life? From a giant blue whale to a tiny bacterium, from a towering tree to a microscopic cell, life exists in countless forms.
The word biology comes from two Greek words: bios, meaning life, and logos, meaning study. Biology is the scientific study of living organisms and their... Our planet is home to an enormous variety of living organisms. This variety of life is called biodiversity.
Living organisms differ enormously in size and complexity. Yet, whether large or microscopic, every organism shows the fascinating organization of life.
But how do we distinguish the living from the non-living? Is movement enough? Does growth define life? Or is there something deeper? Growth is an important characteristic of living organisms. Plants grow from within through cell division. Animals also grow by increasing their cell number and size. But non-living...
Reproduction is another important characteristic of life. Organisms produce new individuals of their own kind. However, some organisms, such as mules, cannot reproduce. Therefore, inside every living organism, thousands of chemical reactions continuously occur. Together, these biochemical reactions are called metabolism. All living organisms are made of cells. The cell is the basic structural and functional unit of life. Cellular organization and metabolism are fundamental features of living organisms. Living organisms can sense and respond to changes in their surroundings. This ability to respond to stimuli is a remarkable characteristic of life. In humans and animals, consciousness allows us to sense and respond to our surroundings. In biology, the ability to sense the environment and respond appropriately is an important feature of living organisms. So what makes something living? Living organisms show cellular organization, metabolism, and the ability to sense and respond to their environment characteristics, but neither alone is sufficient to define life. So what makes enormous diversity of life creates a challenge? How can scientists study, identify, and communicate about millions of different organisms? So what makes enormous to make the study of biodiversity easier, scientists classify organisms into organized groups based on their similarities and differences.
Systematics is a broader approach that considers not only classification, but also the evolutionary relationships and history of organisms. The science of identifying, naming, and classifying organisms is called taxonomy.
A species is generally understood as a group of similar organisms that can interbreed under natural conditions and produce fertile offspring.
Common names can vary from one region or language to another. To avoid confusion, scientists use universal scientific names. In binomial nomenclature, each organism is given a two-word scientific name. The first word represents the genus, and the second represents the specific epithet. The genus name begins with a capital letter, while the specific epithet begins with a small letter. When printed, the scientific written, both words are underlined separately. Organisms are arranged in a hierarchical system of classification. The major taxonomic categories include kingdom, class, order, family, genus, and species. For example, humans belong to kingdom Animalia, phylum Chordata, class Mammalia, order Primates, family Hominidae, genus Homo, and species Sapiens. Biology begins with a simple question: what is life? To answer it, we study living organisms, their characteristics and their relationy, and understand the living world.
Neat recap. Life has cellular organization, metabolism, and response to stimuli. Growth and reproduction are features. Classification sees is the basic unit.
What happens when a living organism grows? Is growth simply an increase in size? Growth is an increase in cell mass and number. But non-living things also increase in size. How do living organisms grow? Is it just size? Living growth occurs from inside. It's an increase in cell mass and number. Cells divide and enlarge. Non-living things grow externally. This is your key NEET takeaway. As the seed germinates, new cells are produced and organized into different structures. Cells divide and enlarge. Non-living things grow externally. This is NEET takeaway. The plant increases in size as its cells divide, grow, and differentiate. This is an increase in mass and cell number. A living organism grows through complex internal biological processes. A living org mass, organisms grow. One important process behind growth is an increase in the number of cells through cell division. How do living organisms together? An increase in cell number and cell mass contributes to the growth of the organism. Cells divide and enlarge. Non-living things grow externally. This is your key NEET takeaway. Growth can also involve an increase in the size or mass of individual cells. This is your key NEET takeaway. How do living organisms together? An increase in cell number and cell mass contributes to the growth of the organism. Cells divide and enlarge. Non-living things grow externally. This is your key NEET takeaway. Animals also grow. A human body develops through coordinated cellular growth and development. In living organisms, growth occurs from within through internal biological processes. Cells divide and enlarge. Non-living things grow externally. In plants, growth continues throughout life, in specialized regions where cells actively divide. This is localized, indefinite growth. In most animals, growth occurs mainly during specific stages of life. Animal growth is determinate.
But here is an important question. Can non-living objects also grow? But crystal can increase question when new material is deposited on its external surface. This is fundamentally different from when new material, which occurs through internal cellular processes. Therefore, growth alone cannot be considered an exclusive defining characteristic of life. Living organisms show growth through highly organized biological processes, an defining characteristic of life. Both may become larger, but the biological meaning of growth is different, an defining characteristic of life. NEET concept alert. Growth is an important characteristic of living organisms, but it is not an exclusive defining property of life. Living organisms grow from within through cellular processes. Non-living objects can also increase in size through external accumulation. Final NEET takeaway. Growth is a characteristic of living organisms, but because non-living objects can also grow, growth alone cannot define life. All living organisms reproduce. Bacteria divide. Yeast cells bud. This transfers genetic info. But what about mules? So, it's not a defining property. Reproduction is the biological process by which living organisms produce new individuals of their own kind. But what about mules? So, it's not a defining property. Is reproduction a defining feature of life? Bacteria multiply by binary fission. Yeast cells reproduce by budding. Higher organisms use gametes, yet so it's not an all-inclusive property. Plants reproduce in different ways. Flowering plants can produce seeds through sexual reproduction. Under suitable conditions, these seeds develop into new plants. In sexual reproduction, specialized reproductive cells called gametes participate in the formation of a new individual. The fusion of male and female gametes forms a zygote, which can develop into a new organism. Sexual reproduction also creates genetic variation because offspring receive genetic information from two parents. But not all organisms require two parents. Asexual reproduction involves a single parent. In binary fission, one bacterial cell divides to produce two daughter cells. In budding, a new organism develops as a small outgrowth from the parent. Plants can also reproduce asexually through vegetative propagation. These examples demonstrate that reproduction does not always require two parents. Reproduction can broadly be divided into sexual and asexual reproduction.
Reproduction is a key characteristic. Bacteria show binary fission. Plants propagate vegetatively. Gametes fuse in sexual reproduction. Yet, mules and worker bees are sterile. Hence, it is not an absolute defining property. However, reproduction is not an absolute characteristic of every individual living organism. For example, sterile worker bees are living organisms but do not normally reproduce. For example, similarly, mules are living organisms but are generally sterile and cannot produce offspring. This distinction is important. An individual organism may not reproduce, while the species as a whole continues through reproduction. NEET concept alert. Reproduction is an important characteristic of living organisms, but it is not an all-inclusive defining characteristic. Remember, reproduction maintains continuity of species. It can be sexual or asexual, but not every individual living organism reproduces. Some living organisms or individuals are unable to reproduce. Therefore, reproduction cannot be used as the sole criterion for defining life. Final NEET takeaway. Reproduction is a major characteristic of living organisms and ensures continuity of species, but it is not an absolute defining property of life. Reproduction is a major characteristic of living organisms and ensures continuity of species, but it is not an absolute defining property of life. Reproduction is an important characteristic of living organ characteristic. For example, sterile worker bees, mules, and infertile individuals. Trillions of invisible chemical reactions take place inside your body. Together, they make life possible. Metabolism is life's defining property. Inside every living cell inside your body, thousands of biochemical reactions. Metabolism is life continuously. The sum total of all biochemical reactions occurring inside a living organism is called metabolism. A living cell is never at rest. Molecules are constantly being built, broken down, transported, and recycled. Nutrients from food enter cells, to provide both energy and raw materials. Catabolism breaks complex molecules into simpler ones while releasing energy. Catabolism breaks energies molecules captured to power countless cellular activities. Mitochondria convert the released energy into ATP, the universal energy currency of the cell. ATP supplies energy for movement, growth, transport, and every other cellular process. Anabolism uses energy to build larger, more complex molecules from simpler ones. Proteins, enzymes, membranes, and cellular structures are continuously synthesized. Metabolism consists of two complementary processes, catabolism and anabolism. Nearly every metabolic reaction is controlled by highly specific biological catalysts called enzymes. Nearly enzymes speed up reactions is controlled by highly specific biologic themselves. Nearly enzymes speed up reactions is controlled by without being consumed biologic themselves. Nearly enzymes speed up reactions is cell performs thousands of metabolic reactions every second. Nearly enzyme, the metabolism of billions of cells, keeps the entire organism alive. A living cell is constantly active because metabolism never stops. When an organism dies, metabolism immediately comes to an end. This difference clearly separates living matter from dead matter. Metabolism maintains growth, repair, movement, reproduction, and every function necessary for life.
Metabolism is the sum total of all reactions. Catabolism releases energy by breaking molecules. Anabolism builds them up, consuming ATP. In dead cells, this process stops completely.
Metabolism is the sum of all reactions. Catabolism releases energy, while anabolism uses it. Growth and reproduction alone cannot define life. Metabolism most reliable defining characteristic. Food provides energy. Catabolism releases it. ATP stores it. Anabolism uses it to build life. Final neat takeaway. Metabolism is the sum total of all biochemical reactions occurring inside living organisms and is considered the defining characteristic of life. Final neat takeaway. Metabolism is the sum total of all biochemical reactions occurring inside living organisms and is considered the defining characteristic of life. Final neat takeaway. Metabolism is the sum total of all biochemical reactions occurring inside living organisms and is considered the defining characteristic of life. Final neat takeaway. Metabolism is the sum total of all biochemical reactions occurring inside living organisms and is considered the defining characteristic of life.
Look at the human body. It appears to be one complete living organism, but what is it actually made of? Inside this complex organism are many levels of biological organization. But what is it actually made of? Different organs work together as organ systems to perform essential functions.
Organism.
Every organ is made of specialized tissues, and tissues are made of groups of cells. At the center of this organization is the cell, the basic structural and functional unit of life. A cell is the smallest organized unit capable of carrying out essential processes of life. Cells obtain nutrients, produce energy, synthesize molecules, remove waste, and maintain their internal environment.
Inside complex cells, specialized organelles perform specific functions, creating an organized cellular system. Inside complex cells, specialized organelles perform specific functions, creating an organized cellular system. Some organisms consist of just one cell. These are called unicellular organisms. Although only one cell is present, that single cell performs all essential activities needed for survival. Other organisms are multicellular and contain millions or even trillions of cells. Other organisms are multicellular and can tell your organisms. Cells become specialized to perform different functions. Other organisms are multicellular. Neurons are specialized for receiving and transmitting signals. Muscle cells are specialized for contraction and movement. Red blood cells transport oxygen throughout the body. This specialization creates a division of labor, allowing multicellular organisms to perform complex functions efficiently. Similar specialized cells combine to form tissues, allowing multicellular organisms. Similar specialized cells combine to form organs, such as the heart. Similar specialized organs work together to form organ systems. The biological hierarchy can be visualized as cell, tissue, organ system, and finally, the complete organism. The same principle applies to plants. Plant cells organize into tissues and organs that perform specialized functions. Unlike non-living matter, living cells carry out coordinated processes such as metabolism, growth, and response to the environment. NEET concept alert. The cell is the basic structural and functional unit of life. All living organisms are made up of cells. Final NEET takeaway. Life is organized at the cellular level. A single cell can perform all life functions, while multicellized cells working together through division of labor. All life functions, while multicellized cells working together through division of labor. All life functions, while multicellized cells working together through division of labor.
All living organisms sense and respond. From humans pulling away from heat to animals sensing danger, plants bending towards light, and microbes moving toward food. Consciousness is a defining property. Any detectable change in the environment is a stimulus. Any detectable change creating a When we encounter a stimulus, our body detects it and produces an appropriate response. Specialized sensory receptors detect changes such as temperature, pressure, light, and chemicals. In animals, these signals can travel through specialized nerve cells called neurons. The brain processes this information and coordinates an appropriate response. The response may be extremely rapid, allowing an organism to react to potentially harmful conditions.
Animals continuously sense their surroundings and respond to changes such as danger, sound, light, and temperature. Animals continuously sense their surroundings and respond to changes such as danger, sound, light, and temperature.
Our own bodies respond automatically to changes in light intensity.
Response to stimuli is not limited to animals toward light. Plants also respond to their environment. For example, a plant shoot grows toward light. This directional growth response is called phototropism.
Plant hormones help coordinate many of these growth responses. Some plants can even respond rapidly to physical touch. When trigger hairs are stimulated, the Venus flytrap rapidly closes its trap. All living organisms sense and respond. From complex neural networks, even microorganisms respond to changes in their surroundings. Consciousness is a fundamental defining property of life. Some microorganisms move toward favorable conditions and away from harmful environments. Living organisms also respond to changes inside their own bodies. For example, the human body responds to changes in temperature to help maintain internal balance. Another example of internal balance is the regulation of blood sugar. When glucose levels rise after a meal, insulin is released to bring them back to normal. Responses to stimuli range from simple cellular reactions to highly complex nervous and behavioral responses. Consciousness refers to the ability to sense and be aware of internal and external environmental conditions. Among living organisms, humans show the most elaborate form of consciousness, allowing complex perception, thought, learning, and decision-making. NEET concept alert. Living organisms continuously sense, allowing, and respond to changes in their environment.
From a human responding to heat to a plant bending toward light, allowing organisms demonstrate the ability to respond to their surroundings. Final NEET takeaway. Consciousness and the ability to sense and respond to environmental stimuli are fundamental characteristics of living organisms. Humans exhibit the most. In summary, consciousness and response to stimuli are defining characteristics of all life, ranging from simple cellular movements to complex human awareness. To review, consciousness and response to stimuli are defining characteristics of all life, with humans displaying the most elaborate form of conscious awareness.
We know a living organism when we see one. But can we define exactly what makes something alive? Life exists in incredibly diverse forms, from microscopic bacteria to complex human beings. Living organisms grow. But is growth alone enough to define life to complex human beings? Not necessarily. Non-living objects such as crystals, can also increase in size through external accumulation of material. Therefore, growth is an important characteristic of life, but it cannot alone define a living organism. Living organisms reproduce and produce new individuals. They create offspring of their very own kind. But some living individuals, such as sterile worker bees, do not reproduce. Mules are another example of living organisms that are generally sterile. Therefore, reproduction is important for the continuity of species. But it is not an all-inclusive defining property of every individual organism. Inside every living cell, thousands of biochemical reactions occur continuously. This total network of reactions is called metabolism. When an organism dies, its organized metabolic activity comes to an end. Metabolism is therefore considered a defining characteristic of living organisms. All living organisms show cellular organization. The cell is the basic structural and functional unit of life. Even a single-celled organism can perform all essential activities necessary for life. In multicellular organisms, specialized cells work together through an organized division of labor. Living organisms also sense changes in their surroundings and respond to them. Plants respond to light and touch, demonstrating that responses to stimuli are not limited to animals. Even microorganisms can detect and respond to changes in their environment. Humans exhibit the most elaborate form of consciousness, including awareness, perception, learning, and decision-making. So, what makes something living? It is not simply one characteristic, but a combination of interconnected properties. Cells maintain metabolism. Metabolism supports growth. Organisms respond to their environment. Reproduction ensures continuity of species. NEET concept alert. No single characteristic, such as growth or reproduction, is sufficient to define life. Life is a highly organized, dynamic system, characterized by interconnected biological processes. Interconnected processes. Earth is home to an astonishing variety of living organisms. From microscopic life to giant animals, life exists almost everywhere. Let us take a journey through the incredible diversity of life on our planet. Welcome to the world of life. This huge variety is biodiversity. Thousands of organisms live together. We see diversity in ecosystems, species, and life forms. Let's define. Welcome to the world of life. Even extreme environments such as deserts support organisms specially adapted to survive there. Welcome to the world of life. More than half of our planet is covered by oceans, containing an enormous variety of marine life. Freshwater environments also contain unique communities of living organisms. Life can even survive in extreme environments, from freezing polar regions to scorching hot springs. Many forms of life are too small to be seen with the naked eye. Fungi form another major group of organisms, playing important roles in ecosystems. The plant kingdom includes an enormous variety of forms, from tiny mosses to giant trees. The animal world is equally diverse, with organisms displaying remarkable differences in form and function. And humans are just one species among millions of living organisms on Earth. These organisms differ greatly in size, shape, structure, habitat, behavior, and biological characteristics.
The incredible variety of living organisms on Earth is known as biodiversity. Biodiversity can be observed at different levels. One level is the diversity of ecosystems found across our planet. Another level is species diversity, the variety of different species living in a particular region or across the...
Welcome to the world of life. Living organisms show enormous diversity in their structures, functions, and adaptations. Biodiversity is the variety of all life forms. Welcome to the world of life. Earth thrives with immense biodiversity. Different organisms have evolved adaptations. To study them, we need classification. From microscopic organisms to giant animals, biodiversity exists across an extraordinary range of scales. Biodiversity is the variety of life on Earth. Scientists have identified and described millions of species, but many more organisms are believed to remain undiscovered. Many species await discovery. But with such enormous diversity, an important question arises. How can we study and organize all these organisms? Millions of organisms await study. To understand this enormous diversity, scientists classify organisms. They are put into groups based on similarities and differences. Classification helps us study life. NEET concept alert. Biodiversity refers to the variety and variability of living organisms found on Earth. It is the variety of life. Earth contains immense biodiversity. From ecosystems to living forms, this includes a variety of life. To study them, microbes to variation. Earth contains an enormous diversity of life. Understanding this diversity requires us to identify, name, and classify organisms systematically. Systematics is the key.
Our planet is home to an enormous variety of living organisms. From microscopic organisms to giant animals, life exists in an astonishing variety of forms. Organisms differ greatly in their size, structure, habitat, and characteristics. But with such enormous diversity, how can we identify and study every organism? Without an organized system, studying and comparing organisms would become extremely difficult. Even identifying organisms accurately can be challenging when there is no systematic arrangement. Common names can also create confusion because the same organism may have different names in different languages, make universal scientific communication difficult. Common names can also create confusion because the same organism may have different names in different regions. Different languages, systems make universal scientific communication difficult. Common names. To solve this problem, scientists developed systematic ways to classify organisms. Make universal scientific communication difficult. Classification means problem, arranging organisms into groups based on their similarities and differences. Make universal scientific communication difficult. Classifications with similar characteristics can be placed together in appropriate groups. Make universal scientific communication. Classifications with important differences can be placed into separate groups. Make universal scientific communication. Classificationized arrangement makes the vast diversity of life easier to understand. Make universal scientific communication.
Classification helps us identify organisms more efficiently.
It also makes the scientific study of organisms more systematic. Classification allows scientists to compare organisms and understand their similarities and differences. It also makes scientific communication about organisms clearer and more effective. It also makes scientific communication about organisms Instead of studying millions of organisms randomly, scientists can study them systematically. Therefore, classification is essential for identification, scientific study, comparison, and communication. The enormous diversity of organisms makes classification necessary for their systematic study.
NEET Quick Revision. Classification organizes biodiversity. It helps identify organisms, makes study systematic, and simplifies comparison and communication. In short, classification brings order to the enormous diversity of life. But who identifies organisms, gives them scientific names, and places them into groups? In the next video, we begin our journey into taxonomy. Earth has an enormous biodiversity, making organisms difficult to study. Common names create confusion and differences. Systematic study becomes easier. How are organisms actually classified? Scientists study an enormous variety of organisms, each with unique characteristics. Imagine discovering an organism that has never been studied before. How would scientists identify and organize it? The first step is identification. Determining the identity of an organism by studying its characteristics. Scientists compare its characteristics with those of organisms that have already been studied.
Based on these characteristics, scientists can determine its identity and relationship to other organisms. But common names can vary from one region or language to another, creating confusion. Based on these characteristics, scientists can determine its identity and relationship to other organisms. Scientists therefore use standardized scientific names to communicate about organisms clearly and universally. Together, these activities form the foundation of taxonomy, the science of identifying, naming, and classifying organisms. After identification and naming, organisms are placed into appropriate groups, based on their similarities and differences. Taxonomy involves three important activities: identification, nomenclature, and classification. This systematic organization makes the enormous diversity of organisms easier to study. Taxonomists carefully study the characteristics of organisms to identify similarities and differences. The process can be visualized as identify the organism, give it a scientific name, and place it in the appropriate classification group. The process of assigning scientific names to organisms is called nomenclature. Taxonomists use detailed observations and scientific information to study and organize biological diversity. Taxonomy allows scientists worldwide to study and communicate about organisms in a systematic way. For example, an unknown insect can be identified by comparing its characteristics with known organisms. For example, once identified, the organism can be assigned a scientific name according to accepted naming rules. For example, it can then be placed into a suitable classification group with other related organisms. Remember this simple sequence. Identification tells us what the organism is, nomenclature gives it a scientific name, and classification places it in an organized group. NEET Quick Revision. Taxonomy deals with identification, nomenclature, and classification of organisms. Taxonomy provides a systematic approach to understanding and organizing the diversity of living organisms between these two concepts. Taxonomy provides a systematic approach, same as systematics. In the next video, we'll discover the important difference between these two concepts. Identification determines the identity of an organism.
Nomenclature, assign a scientific name, and classification, arrange organisms into groups. Taxonomy helps us identify, name, and classify organisms, assign a scientific name, and classification, arrange organisms into groups.
But scientists also want to understand how different organisms are related to one another.
This broader approach takes us beyond simple identification and classification. This broader study of organismal diversity and their relationships is called systematics. Imagine a scientist discovering an unknown plant. Taxonomy begins by studying its characteristics.
The scientist identifies the organism by comparing its characteristics with known organisms.
The organism is then given a scientific name according to accepted naming rules.
Kinesin motors transport cellular cargo. Finally, it is placed into an appropriate classification group. So, taxonomy focuses on identification, nomenclature, and classification. Systematics goes further by studying the diversity of organisms and the relationships among them.
Systematics also considers the evolutionary relationships among organisms. Organisms may share common ancestors, and systematics helps us understand these relationships. By comparing characteristics, scientists can investigate how organisms are related. Taxonomy focuses on identifying, naming, and classifying organisms. Systematics takes a broader view of their diversity and relationships. Think of taxonomy as organizing organisms, while systematics also investigates how those organisms are related. Systematics helps us visualize the relationships among organisms as part of the evolutionary history of life. Systematics helps us visualize the relationships among organisms as part of the evolutionary history of life. It connects the diversity we see today with the relationships that exist among organisms. Systematic studies use scientific evidence to understand similarities, differences, and relations. It connects the diversity we see today with the relationship. Understanding this difference helps us see that classification is not just about grouping organisms. It can also help us understand their relationships. Think of taxonomy as organizing a library into categories, while systematics also explores how the books are connected through their history and relationships. Taxonomy deals with identification, nomenclature, and classification, while systematics includes the study of diversity and evolutionary relationships among organisms. Taxonomy deals with identification, nomenclature, and classification, while systematics includes the study of diversity and evolutionary relationship. Remember, systematics is the broader field, while taxonomy forms an important part of it. Let's find out in the next video. Remember, systematics is the broader field, while taxonomy forms an important part of it. Now we know how organisms are identified, classified, and studied in relationships. Let's find out in the next video.
Identifies and classifies life, like finding and naming this new plant species. But systematics is much broader. It adds evolutionary relationships, comparing organismal diversity and history. Remember, we can identify and classify organisms. But how do we decide whether two organisms belong to the same species? The answer begins with one of the most important concepts in biology: species. We have learned how organisms are identified, named, and classified. But what is the basic unit of classification? Species. Earth contains an enormous diversity of living organisms, making systematic classification essential.
To organize this diversity, scientists classify organisms into different groups. One of the most important groups is the species. Look at humans, an enormous diversity. We may look different from one another, but we all belong to the same species. Individual differences in appearance do not necessarily mean that organisms belong to different species. Members of the same species generally share fundamental characteristics and have the potential to reproduce with one another. Under natural conditions, members of the same species can interbreed and produce offspring. An important idea is that their offspring are generally fertile and can reproduce further. Thus, a species can be understood as a group of similar organisms capable of interbreeding and producing fertile offspring under natural conditions. For example, individuals of the lion species can naturally interbreed and produce fertile offspring. Tigers, however, belong to a different species from lions, despite being closely related. Being closely related does not necessarily mean that two organisms belong to the same species. Horses belong to one species. They reproduce with one another to produce fertile offspring. Donkeys belong to a different species from horses.
A horse and a donkey can produce a hybrid called a mule. A horse and a donkey. However, mules are generally sterile and cannot produce offspring of their own. This illustrates an important difference between organisms belonging to the same species and organisms belonging to different species. Species are often separated by reproductive barriers that prevent them from producing fertile offspring with other groups. Members of one species can show considerable variation while still belonging to the same species. The species is therefore considered the basic unit of classification and an important starting point for organizing biodiversity. Remember the core concept: similar organisms that can interbreed and produce fertile offspring under natural conditions are generally considered members of the same species. Species is the basic unit of classification. Members generally share fundamental characteristics, can interbreed naturally, and produce fertile offspring. Remember, organisms may look similar or different, but reproductive compatibility and fertile offspring are important concepts when understanding species. Now we know what a species is. But how are species organized into larger groups? In the next video, we'll explore the taxonomical hierarchy. First, species consist of similar organisms. Second, they can interbreed under natural conditions. Third, and finally, species is the basic unit of classification. A species is the basic unit of classification. But how are species grouped into larger categories? Let's climb the ladder of the taxonomical hierarchy, from species to kingdom. We learned that species is the basic unit of classification. But organisms are not classified into species alone. To organize the enormous diversity of life, organisms are arranged into a series of hierarchical categories. A hierarchy arranging groups in different levels, from smaller and more specific categories, larger and broader categories. Humans belong to the species Homo sapiens, and more specific categories, larger and broader category. Humans belong to the species Homo sapiens, and more specific categories, larger and broader category. One or more closely related species are grouped into a genus. Humans belong to the genus Homo or category.
One or more closely related genera are grouped into a genus. Humans belong to the genus Homo or category. One or more closely related family are grouped into a genus. Humans belong to the genus Homo or category. One or more closely related family are grouped into a genus. Humans belong to the genus Homo or category. One or more closely related family are grouped into a genus. Humans belong to the genus Homo or category.
One or more related orders are grouped into a class. For example, primates and carnivora both belong to class Mammalia. One or more related orders are grouped into a class. Humans belong to the class Mammalia, which includes mammals. One or more related orders are grouped into a class. Related classes are grouped into a phylum in animals. One or more related orders are grouped into a class. Humans belong to the 5 related chordata are grouped into a kingdom. One or more related orders are grouped into a class. One or more related phyla are grouped into a kingdom. One or more related orders are grouped into a class. To the kingdom Animalia are grouped into a kingdom. One or more related classification of humans together class to the kingdom Animalia are grouped into a kingdom. One or more related classification of group moving upward, each category contains a broader group of organisms. Are grouped, the number of shared similarities decreases. One or more related classification of group. As we move from species toward kingdom, the number of organisms are grouped generally increases. One lower level related class organisms share more specific characteristics. At higher levels, the similarities become broader. In animal classification, the term phylum is used. In plant classification, the equivalent category is commonly called division. Remember, a taxonomic category is a rank, such as species, genus, or family. A taxon is a particular group placed at any one of these ranks. NEET quick revision is a rank, such as species, family, order, class, phylum or division, and kingdom. Now we know how organisms are arranged in a taxonomical hierarchy. But why do scientists use 2 words for a scientific name? In the next video, we'll explore binomial nomenclature. Species is the basic unit of classification. Related species form a genus. Each level represents a specific taxon. Genera are grouped into families, orders, and classes. Remember, this hierarchy follows a definite sequence from species to kingdom. As we go up, the organisms increases. Why is the human name written as Homo sapiens? Let's discover binomial no next video. Earth is home to enormous variety. How do we name life universally? Carolus Linnaeus gave us the solution. Each name consists of 2 words, like Mangifera indica for mango. Common names can differ between regions and languages, like Am or Keri in India. This makes scientific communication confusing. We need a universal scientific name. Scientists therefore needed a universal system of naming organisms.
The first word, scientific name of Mera, is the genus name. The second word, scientific, is called the specific epithet. Together, the genus name and specific epithet form the complete scientific name of the species.
Carolus Linnaeus developed and popularized the binomial system of nomenclature. The word binomial means consisting of two names or 2 parts. For example, the scientific name of mango is Mangifera indica.
Together, humans are scientifically named Homo sapiens.
Together, Humo is the genusly named Homo sapiens.
And sapiens is the specific epithet. And sapiens is the specific epithet. Another example is potato, whose scientific name is Solanum tuberosum. The genus name always begins with a capital letter. The genus name always ferrum M. The genus name always begins with a capital letter. The specific epithet always begins with a lowercase letter. The genus named or printed scientific names are written in italics. Always begins with a sapiens. When handwritten, each word of the scientific name is underlined separately. Scientific names are generally Latin or Latinized and are universally accepted. This universal system allows scientists around the world to communicate clearly about the same organism. Remember, Mangifera alone is only the genus, and Indica alone is only the specific epithet. The complete scientific name is Mangifera indica. Here is the complete structure of a binomial scientific name. Binomial scientific name. The complete scientific names are indica. Neat quick revision. 2 words. Genus first, specific epithet second. Genus starts with a capital letter, specific epithet with a lowercase letter. Binomial nomenclature provides a universal and standardized way to name organisms, eliminating confusion caused by common names. Now we know how organisms are scientifically named. But where are plant specimens preserved and studied? In the next video, we'll explore the herbarium. Let us recap. A scientific name consists of a genus and a specific epithet. Examples include Homo sapiens and Solanum tuberosum. Rememis is capitalized. We now know how plants are given scientific names. But how can scientists preserve plant specimens for future identification and study? Let's explore the herbarium. India has thousands of plant species. But how do scientists record every one of them? The answer is a flora. A flora is a scientific book containing information about the plants of a particular region. Every geographical region has its own flora. Each flora includes all naturally occurring plants of that area. Scientists first explore and survey the region. Representative plants are collected for detailed study. Each plant is scientifically identified. Morphological characters are carefully described. Every species is recorded with its scientific name. Flora often records flowering and fruiting seasons. It also shows where each plant naturally occurs. Habitats are clearly mentioned for every species. Accurate illustrations help in identification. Experts compile all information into a flora. Today, many floras are available digitally.
Students and researchers use flora identification. Flora helps us understand regional biodiversity. A herbarium preserves plants, while a flora describes them. Identification manuals help identify plants, but a flora provides complete regional information. Identification manuals help. These steps lead to a complete flora. It documents all plants in a region. Here is your final NEET take. According to NCERT, a flora contains the actual account of habitat and distribution of plants of a given area. Remember these 5 points for every NEET examination. Number 1, plants. Number 2, region. Number 3, number 4, distribution. A flora covers all plants of a region. But what if scientists want a complete study of just one group? Next, we'll explore monographs. Here is your final NEET takeaway for flora. Remember, flora is a scientific of the plants of a particular geographical area. Use the memory trick place to remember key points for your examination. Here is your final NEET takeaway for flora. Scientific of the plants of a particular geographical area. Use the memory trick place to remember key points for your examination.
We know how organisms are scientifically named, but how do scientists identify and preserve plant specimens for future study?
One important taxonomical aid is the herbarium, a collection of preserved plant specimens used for scientific study. A herbarium is a collection of dried, pressed, and preserved plant specimens mounted on sheets and arranged systematically. The process begins with the careful collection of a plant specimen from its natural habitat. The specimen is selected carefully so that important features needed for identification are preserved. Important field information is recorded, including the location, habitat, and date of collection. Next, the plant is carefully arranged between sheets of paper for pressing. A plant press applies pressure to flatten the specimen and preserve its important features. The pressed specimen is then dried carefully to remove moisture and prevent deterioration. After drying, the plant becomes a preserved specimen ready for mounting. The dried specimen is mounted on a standard-sized herbarium sheet. The specimen is secured carefully so that its important structures remain visible for future examination. Each herbarium sheet carries a label containing important scientific information. The label includes the scientific name of the plant and its family. It also records the place of collection, date of collection, and the name of the collector. It also records the place of collection, date of collection, and the name of the collector. Together, the preserved specimen and its label create a permanent scientific record of the plant. Herbarium specimens are valuable references for identifying unknown plants.
They also help scientists compare plant characteristics and conduct taxonomic research. Herbaria provide valuable reference collections. Together, herbarium collections preserve valuable records of plant diversity from different regions. Herbarium sheets are systematically arranged and stored so that specimens can be easily accessed and studied.
A botanical garden preserves living plants, while a herbarium preserves dried and pressed plant specimens for long-term reference. NEET quick revision: collect, press, dry, mount, label, and systematically preserve the plant specimens.
Let's quickly revise what we've learned about a herbarium. It's a collection of dried and pressed plant specimens for scientific study. Remember, each sheet must include the scientific name, collector, date, and place. A herbarium preserves plants after collection. But where can scientists study a wide variety of plants while they are still alive? Let's explore the botanical garden.
Now we know how dried plant specimens are preserved. But what if we want to study plants while they are alive? In the next video, we'll explore the botanical garden. In the previous lesson, we learned how plants are preserved in a herbarium. But where can we study plants while they are still alive? The answer is in the botanical garden, a living museum of plants. A botanical garden is a place where living plant species are cultivated, maintained, and studied for scientific and educational purposes. Botanical gardens contain an incredible diversity of plant species from different habitats. Every important plant is carefully labeled with its scientific information. The label usually includes the scientific name, family, common name, and place of origin. Botanical gardens help students and scientists identify living plants accurately.
They are important centers for taxonomical and botanical research. Taxonomy and research. Unlike herbarium specimens, living plants allow scientists to observe every stage of plant growth. Scientists can also observe pollination and ecological interactions. Botanical gardens play an important role in conserving endangered plant species. This is called ex situ conservation, where plants are protected outside their natural habitats. Many botanical gardens maintain climate-controlled greenhouses for delicate plants. Special collections preserve plants with unique ecological or scientific importance. Nurseries help multiply valuable plant species for conservation and education. Modern botanical gardens also support advanced plant biotechnology and tissue culture. One famous example is the Acharya Jagadish Chandra Bose Indian Botanic Garden in Howrah. Another world-famous botanical garden is the Royal Botanic Gardens, Kew, in London. Botanical gardens serve as outdoor classrooms for students and researchers.
They showcase the remarkable diversity of the plant kingdom. A herbarium preserves dried plant specimens, whereas a botanical garden maintains living plants.
Remember, botanical gardens conserve living plants, support research, education, identification, and conservation.
NEET quick revision. Collect, press, dry, mount, label, and systematically preserve the plant specimens.
We've explored living plant collections. Next, we'll discover museums, where preserved specimens of plants and animals help scientists study biodiversity. We've explored living plant collections. Next, we'll discover museums, where preserved specimens of plants and animals help scientists study biodiversity. Plants can be preserved in a herbarium, and living plants are maintained in botanical gardens. But how are animals and other biological specimens preserved for scientific study?
We've explored herbariums and botanical gardens. But how do scientists preserve animals and other biological specimens for long-term study? Museums. A museum is a place where preserved plant and animal specimens are stored, studied, and displayed for scientific purposes. A museum is preserve valuable records of Earth's biodiversity and to scientific purposes. The process begins with the collection of scientifically important specimens. Each specimen is carefully identified before preservation. Important information is recorded, including scientific name, locality, and date of collection. Many specimens are preserved in special solutions inside sealed jars. Reptiles and amphibians are often preserved for future scientific study. Museums also maintain preserved and arranged in special collections of aquatic organisms. Insects are commonly preserved and arranged in special collection boxes. These collections help scientists identify unknown organisms. Larger animals are often taxidermy helps preserve the natural appearance of animals. Larger animals are often preserved using taxidermy, unknown organisms. Larger animals are often taxidermy helps preserve the natural appearance of animals. Skeletal collections help scientists compare body structures. Many museums also preserve fossils that provide evidence of ancient life.
Fossils help us understand the history and evolution of life. Evolutionary of life. Museum collections are important resources for biological research. Museums help students learn about biodiversity and classification. Specimens are systematically arranged for easy access and study. They are vital centers for research, education, and understanding the natural world. Museums help students learn about biodiversity and classification. Let's summarize how museum specimens are prepared and used. NEET quick revision. Museums preserve plant and animal specimens. They support identification and classification. They are used for education. They support scientific research. Museums preserve specimens of animals. We study living animals in conditions similar to their natural habitats. Let's explore zoological parks. Museums preserve specimens of animals. We study living animals in conditions similar to their natural habitats. Let's explore zoological parks.
In museums, animals are preserved for study. But where can scientists observe animals while they are alive? A zoological park is a place where living wild animals are maintained in protected environments. These environments for scientific study, conservation, and education. Modern zoological parks are designed to resemble the natural habitats of animals. Modern zoo parks house a wide variety of animal species from around the world. Every animal is carefully identified and documented using scientific information. Veterinarians regularly monitor the health and well-being of zoo animals.
Zoologists and wildlife biologists study animal behavior. This includes social interactions and group dynamics. This information is crucial for developing effective. Zoological parks allow scientists to study feeding habits and dietary adaptations. Living animals can be observed displaying natural social behaviors. Many zoological parks support breeding programs for endangered species.
Conservation is one of the most important roles of modern zoological parks. Many rare and endangered species are protected through carefully managed conservation programs. Protecting animals outside their natural habitats is known as ex situ conservation.
Researchers collect valuable information about animal biology, genetics, and behavior.
Zoological parks educate students and the public about wildlife and biodiversity. Observe these adaptations, vital for NEET. Zoological parks educate students and the public about wildlife and biodiversity. Observe these adaptations, vital for NEET. Special facilities maintain reptiles under carefully controlled environmental conditions. Aquatic exhibits recreate rivers, lakes, and marine ecosystems. A museum preserves dead specimens, whereas a zoological park maintains living animals. Modern zoological parks play an important role in protecting global biodiversity. Let's summarize the major functions of a zoological park: living animals, identification, and behavior study, then breeding, conservation, and education. According to NCERT, zoological parks allow us to learn. They help us learn food habits and behavior. We also learn about natural habitats of living animals.
NEET quick revision. Zoological parks conserve living animals, support research, education, behavioral studies, and wildlife conservation. NEET quick revision. We've learnt where living animals are studied. But how do scientists identify an unknown organism? In the next video, we'll explore taxonomic keys. Zoological parks maintain living animals for study. They allow us to learn about wildlife habits and support conservation and captive breeding. Unlike museums, imagine discovering an unknown plant or animal. How do scientists identify it step by step? The answer lies in the taxonomic key. You found an unfamiliar organism. How do you identify it scientifically? The answer lies in taxonomy's most powerful tool, the taxonomic key. A taxonomic key is a tool used to identify unknown organisms based on observable characteristics. The taxonomic key. Zoological parks conserve living animals, support taxonomy's education's most powerful tools, the taxonomic key. Taxonomic keys use contrasting characters to separate organisms. Each step contains two contrasting statements, called a couplet.
Each correct choice leads to another pair of contrasting characters. Choose the statement that matches the specimen. Each correct flowers can also be identified using visible characters. Wing color and pattern help distinguish butterfly species. Different anatomical features help identify birds.
Observable body characteristics are used to identify mammals.
Observable body characteristics are used to identify mammals. Every correct decision brings you closer to the correct organism. If you choose the wrong statement, simply return to the previous couplet and choose the correct alternative. Scientists use taxonomic keys during fieldwork and laboratory studies. Scientist keys are commonly included in field guides and manuals. Today, digital taxonomic keys make identification even faster. Digital taxonomic keys ensure accurate and consistent identification worldwide. By following each pair of contrasting characters, the unknown plant is correctly identified. The unknown plant. Remember, taxonomic keys use contrasting characters, arranged as couplets, to identify unknown organisms. According to NCERT, taxonomic keys are analytical tools used for identifying organisms based on contrasting characters.
A taxonomic key is one of the most reliable tools for identifying living organisms. Once an organism is identified, often consult a flora to learn more about plants found in a particular region. Let's explore flora in the next video. Once an organism is identified, scientists often consult a flora to learn more about plants found in a particular region. Let's explore flora in the next video. Here is your final neat takeaway for taxonomic keys. First, observe the organism and compare its characters. Then, choose one of two statements in a couplet. We've learned how organisms are preserved and identified, but where do scientists find detailed scientific information about them? Scientists rely on specialized scientific references called taxonomical aids. Scientists rely on specialized scientific references, taxonomical aids. Besides keys, there are other means of recording descriptions. These are manuals, flora, monographs, and catalogs. There are other means. Classification manuals help identify organisms using observable characteristics. This brings us to identification manuals. They provide detailed keys and descriptions. This helps in identifying species in a specific area. It is an essential aid for field taxonomists. Catalogs are another important taxonomical aid. They provide a methodical list of species. This assists zoologists in identification. Let us now summarize Chapter 1.
Taxonomical aids organize information systematically. They are arranged by families, genera, and species. It is invaluable for future research. This completes Chapter 1. In summary, an identification manual serves as a field guide. It provides keys for the identification of species in a specific area and future research. This brings us to the end of Chapter 1. In summary, an identification manual serves as a field guide. Flora is a book containing information about the plants of a particular region. This brings us to the end of Chapter 1. For example, Himalayan flora differs significantly. It differs from desert or tropical flora. Flora provides the account of habitat and distribution. It covers various plants in a given area. Flora includes detailed botanical descriptions and diagnostic keys. These keys are used for the identification of plant species. It also provides an account of habitats to plant species. Flora distribution maps show where species occur. They connect species to specific environmental conditions. This correlates distribution with climate data. Scientists use flora to confirm plant identities. They utilize technical descriptions and keys. This
confirms the species.
A monograph is a complete scientific account. It is dedicated to one taxonomic group. It contains comprehensive information on any one taxon. Every species of one genus is displayed together. Potatoes, tomatoes, and eggplants belong to Solanum. It integrates data from various fields of all species. Monographs include detailed morphology and anatomy. They also cover ecology and distribution. All this data is used for classification. This cross-section is highly detailed. Researchers consult monographs to verify details. This allows them to validate their findings for existing frameworks. Let us examine an example of a monograph. It represents complete scientific documentation. It is dedicated to one single genus. This provides a complete data account. In summary, a monograph is a study of it represents a complete scientific documentation account. It is dedicated to one single genus, invaluable for systematic classification. A catalog is an organized list. It lists specimens in herbific documentation. It covers botanical gardens and museums. It covers specimens found in a place.
Catalogs provide a methodic listing of species. Every specimen is assigned a unique number for easy identification. Herbarium catalogs have transitioned to vast digital archives. Thousands of sheets are organized with unique digital barcodes. Digital databases allow for instant access. A quick search locates the specimen and its complete record. To summarize, a catalog acts as a taxonomical aid. It is an organized list of collections with brief descriptions. Here is a comparison. Taxonomical acts as a taxonomisms. Flora describe plants of a region with brief descriptions. Let us revise Chapter 1. We have studied various taxonomical aids. These include herbarium, botanical garden, museum, and zoological park. We've completed the living world. Next, we'll discover how scientists classify millions of organisms into kingdoms in Chapter 2, biological classification. We've completed the living world. To conclude, here is your neat memory table for all taxonomical aids. Revise these key points carefully for your exams.